Welcome to episode 13 of the Online Learning Podcast. Are you making the most of the person you can be? Online learning is your gateway to expanding your horizons in a direction you may not even have thought of. Hello, I'm John Colley. Here on the Online Learning Podcast, we challenge you to find the online learning courses to take you to your next level. Expert in something? Why not create your own course and monetize that expertise? Come on, open this door with me and step inside the Online Learning Podcast. Hello, I'm John Colley. I'm your host for this episode of the Online Learning Podcast. We're on to episode 13. Today I've got a very exciting interview with Martin Perhiniak, who is an Adobe certified instructor, expert, freelance designer, and we go into a lot of design stuff in the interview today. Before we go, however, to our marketing tip, I'd like to take you over and give a couple of shout-outs to 2 5-star reviews that we've had on iTunes. The first of these is from TC Wayne, and TC gives us 5 stars and says, a great insight into one of the more successful online course creators on Udemy. This session was packed with information that will assist any course creator on how Phil ramped up his numbers of students. I highly recommend it. And the other review is from Sweden. It's from Kalle Bello. Kalle, thank you very much indeed. He says, sadly, life is limited on time. This podcast cuts down on time spent to find interesting courses online. Interviews of various instructors gives you the possibility to know them and learn about online teaching and the financial possibilities. This podcast is excellent. Companion for your walk, run or commute. The podcast is equally adapted for instructors as students. So thank you very much to fabulous reviews, and these are helping us to make progress in iTunes and get up to the top so we can be more popular and more easy to find. If you give us a 5-star rating and a review, you could be hearing your name shouted out at the beginning of one of the episodes. But now let's go over and look at this week's marketing tip of the week. And now, the Online Learning Podcast's Marketing Tip of the Week. This week's Marketing Tip of the Week is from Lucian Mihailescu. Lucian, I hope I haven't murdered your surname there. And I think he's got a great one here, which I hope you're going to enjoy doing. It's certainly going to be a lot of fun. He says, if you have your pets help with your promotions, it can be a really fun way to share your Udemy courses. What he recommends is that you create a funny picture or a short video related to the event or the course you're promoting and post it on Instagram. He says the funniest thing is the photo shoot itself. When you post on Instagram, you can automatically share the picture or video to Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Flickr and Foursquare, so that's a great way to get that out. If you use WordPress, he's recommending a plugin called Instagrate Pro, which is Instagrate Pro, to automatically import your Instagram picture or video to your website. And you can filter your imported media based on a keyword, media type, Instagram feed type, and more. There's also a free version of Instagrate with less features, so that's certainly worth looking. And this enables you to use your social media sharing tools to share your website posts with your audience. So you can start with one picture or video on Instagram, and you can share that to social media, then bring it into your website and share it even further. And the whole point about Lucian's approach is you make a short, funny video or take a funny picture which involves your pet. And that then makes it more viral, more interesting and more entertaining. So, Lucian, brilliant tip. Thank you very much indeed for allowing me to share this with the Online Learning Podcast community. And I'll bring you another one in the next episode. Now it's time for this week's interview, and I'm delighted to welcome Martin Perhiniak to the Online Learning Podcast. Martin, as I said in the intro, is an expert on Adobe, and I think you're going to find, if you've got any interest in design or Adobe products, you're going to find this a really interesting interview. So let's crack on and welcome Martin to the show. And now it's time for this week's Course Creator Interview. So today on the Online Learning Podcast, I'm delighted to welcome Martin Perhiniak. Martin is an Adobe certified instructor and expert, a freelance designer and digital artist. So we're going to have a very creative conversation today. Martin, welcome to the Online Learning Podcast.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone.
It's great to have you with us today. I'd be very interested just to start to learn a little bit about who you are and what you do. You've got a very interesting European accent, so that might be a good starting point.
Yes, that's correct. I'm originally from Hungary. At the moment, I live in London, and I studied product design at university in Hungary, and then I realized that I have a passion for Adobe applications. And because I was always a bit ahead of all my other friends from university in using these applications, I realized I have a talent for teaching them to my friends. So I looked up online if it's possible to become certified for these products. And then I realized that Adobe has a really good system for having a whole certification system. I passed the Photoshop expert exam first in Hungary. Actually, I was the first, I think, the first being certified. And then I also became the first to become certified as an instructor because I started teaching at a media school in Hungary. And from then on, I just came to London, I think, after 3 years after that. I finished university, and then thanks to my certification, actually, with Adobe, I had an access to all the Adobe certified or Adobe authorized training centers all around the world. And I just sent a couple of emails to some of these centers, and some of them got back to me. And one of them was Academy class in England, and they had me to come to England and start teaching here Adobe applications. So that's like a brief history of mine.
Brilliant. So now do you actually do all your work online, or do you still do an awful lot of sort of face-to-face instruction?
Yeah, I actually do both, and I try to balance out these things because I feel like if you do everything online, it makes you a little bit too much on your own. You just spend too much time on your own, and you don't have enough human interactions. So I really like to meet people. I really like to be around people. So I do seminars, I do courses, one-on-one or bespoke courses, and also training courses with training companies here in England, and not just in England, but mainly in England since I'm based here. And at the same time, I do live online courses as well, and I record courses which I sell. So I try to do a little bit of everything.
Yeah. And how did you get into creating online courses? We have a common platform, which is Udemy, obviously, and people who listen to this podcast know that most of the people I'm talking to, because I host my courses on Udemy, are coming from Udemy. But how did you start in the online course creation and online learning sort of market?
Yes, my probably first most important step to get into this industry was when I started writing tutorials, or I would say recording tutorials for PSD Tuts Plus, which is a huge Photoshop tutorial website, and it's not just they are doing the Tuts Plus network, and does loads of other stuff as well, like Vector Tuts Plus. But I was first involved in the PSD Tuts Plus, and I think I am probably the most published author on their website. I have around 200 video tutorials on that site, and they are all completely free. And the good thing about this was that I got paid for doing these tutorials for them, but I had a huge follower base already building up from their website. And that really inspired me to do more tutorials. And then recently, this was like 2-3 years ago when I started doing tutorials for them. And in a couple of months ago, I thought, okay, this is the right time to start selling my stuff as well. So I started looking for platforms available to do this. And first I found Leaping Brain. I don't know if you heard of that.
No.
And that's a company, and they have a solution similar to Udemy, but I was really disappointed with the service. I found it very time-consuming, very difficult to change anything. So it was very not user-friendly at all. And then it really made me believe that there's no really good way to do this. And that's when someone recommended Udemy to me. It was actually one of my students from a live session, a live online session that I did. And I checked out Udemy, and I immediately realized that, yeah, this is the one that I was looking for. And since then, in a couple of months, I have now 5 courses there, and I'm making regular passive income from it. And I'm working always on new courses, so I plan new courses already.
Very exciting. Can you just give me the course where you did your PSD course? Is that the website? What's the link for that?
It's a PSD as the Photoshop file format.
Yeah.
And then .tuts plus, like tutorials plus, tuts plus.
TUTS?
TUTS
Plus.
and plus.
Yeah.
.com.
.com. Very good. I'll put a link to that in the show notes so that people can find it.
Cool.
Yeah, very good.
Or I can even give you a link to all my tutorials, because I can give you a link to my tutorials specifically on their website as well.
Yeah, brilliant. That would
be
excellent as well. Yeah, so we'll put that onto the show notes too. Excellent.
Cool.
So you started making courses for Udemy. So can you just quickly tell us what you have on Udemy at the moment before we focus down on the Spotlight course?
Sure. The way I categorized my courses is there's 3 main areas which I would like to cover. First of them is the essential skills for designers, which is like a foundation. It's really the skills that you need in any type of design field. I'm talking about like masking, using the pen tool, working with type, and working with images in general. So these are the essential skills, and I have these 4 courses that I mentioned already available, and then I have another course which is for free. It's called The Ultimate Guide on How to Become a Designer, which is like an introduction to everything related to design, and also an introduction to all my courses, present and future courses. So just to summarize it, it's essential skills is the first set of courses that I'm planning to do. Then there will be another one. It's the specialization courses, which goes more into specific things like, let's say, logo design or user interface design techniques and stuff like that. And then there will be another set of courses called Getting Recognized as a Designer, which is more like the final stage. Once you know the basics, once you decided which specialization you choose, then how to get out there and how to get recognized and become a great designer that everyone knows.
Yeah, it sounds absolutely fascinating. I can see you've got a long-term strategy, which is very, very interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I've got lots of ideas about courses, but at the moment I've put them aside and I'm focusing on getting the podcast up and running. But no, I think like you, there's a lot of opportunity there, a lot of opportunity. So which course are we going to spotlight today?
I would prefer to talk about masking, essential skills for designers masking course, which is currently my best-selling course, and I think it's mainly because it's one of the most misunderstood concept in design, but still most people know about it and would like to learn about it.
Could you just for the ignorant like me, I'm not entirely sure what masking is. Can you just try and summarize it so that people know what we're talking about?
Sure. The probably the most easiest way to understand what masking is about, if we get a very simple example of having a photograph in which you have a person or an object and you would like to replace the background, and for that you would have to mask out the original background of the photo and just replace anything behind it. So that process is called masking, when you hide parts of your images, but without actually deleting them. So it's a non-destructive thing, a non-destructive technique, which is very important in the design world, because you have to be able to make changes to anything that you do throughout the whole designing process without repeating yourself. So the non-destructive features of Photoshop are very important, and masking is probably one of the foundations of this whole
so this is where you
workflow.
effectively create layers upon, and then you can, if you make a layer active, it then what's on the top of something sort of covers
Exactly,
something
yeah,
that's underneath it,
exactly.
yeah.
Have layers on top of each other, but showing parts of each of them without deleting anything from them. So masking is like a non-destructive way of deleting. I would rather say hiding and showing or revealing parts.
That's very helpful. So just let's go a bit deeper into the course then. Can you just sort of summarize the structure of the course and what people will learn from it?
Sure. I'm talking about first of all the basics of masking, but let me just if I have the outline, just a second here in front of me, I can talk more about it. So it's really the everything that you really need to know about masking in Photoshop, but not only in Photoshop, but I also talk about masking in Illustrator and InDesign. So it's like it expands not just the course, but the whole technique, not through the whole Adobe applications. Even you can use this masking technique in video editing in Premiere or After Effects. So it's really the course first starts with understanding what is masking and what is essentially good for, and how it works. And then it gets into more details with masking techniques in Photoshop, because there's actually quite a lot of different techniques. Like I would do I would use different masking techniques for selecting images with complicated edges like hair or fur. So I talk about more in detail for each of these specific techniques. And then I also show the techniques in Illustrator and InDesign. So that's like the whole course.
Yeah. Gosh, that sounds very comprehensive. How long does that take to do? I mean, how many hours of video have you created for that?
I think it's just about 90 minutes, so an hour and a half altogether, the course.
So actually, that's very compact. So if somebody sat down in a morning, they could work through it without any difficulty and come away with bags of information. Yeah. Fantastic.
Easily. That's one of the most important things for my courses, that I don't want to make them too long, because I had that experience before, to going through like tens of hours of course materials, video tutorials, and it just gets really tiring. So I try to really find the essential steps for people to able to learn these techniques. It doesn't mean that I'm missing out on anything. I just really concentrate all the essential information into this 90 minutes.
That sounds... I completely agree with you taking that approach, because I find it very wearing when you start doing a course and then you look and there are 93 modules and you think, I'm never going to finish this. Whereas it's much more mentally manageable if it's broken down to several courses, and you can complete the course and you feel in a sensible time. Who do you think the course is for? Who's your sort of ideal student?
The ideal student for this course, actually, I would say that anyone who has a little bit of previous knowledge of using Photoshop it's applicable for. So you don't really have to be a designer to be able to make the most of this course. But definitely, I would recommend it to anyone who wants to do anything with design. So if someone wants to get into, or I would say even better, creative industry, if anyone wants to get into photo retouching or graphic design, web design, user interface design, any of these fields will probably need these type of skills, and masking would be one of the most important ones. So spending 90 minutes of learning something essential like this, I think, is a very good investment of time. In my career, because I've been doing all of these fields, I've been working as a professional in all of these fields, I can tell that I needed masking in almost every project. And because I knew how to use it properly, every employer really liked to work with me because I could change everything so easily. Mm-hmm. So they really preferred the way I was working.
So a lot of this, I'm just thinking now about the benefits. A lot of the benefits of learning how to use these tools properly is essentially that you can work much more efficiently and much more quickly, and particularly if you know how to use Photoshop and alter things non-destructively. When you get client comments, when you need to go back and change things, then it's a much faster, quicker process. Is that a fair summary?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
I mean, I've been finding with ScreenFlow, where I've taken a couple of ScreenFlow courses off Udemy, and it's really accelerating my ability to produce ScreenFlow videos. But it's also pushing the boundary now. I'm now trying more complicated things as well, and I guess the same would be true of Photoshop. Once you've mastered something like masking, then you'll be tempted to work with much more complex images.
Exactly. It's especially with Photoshop, and it's an application that almost everyone starts learning on their own. With that, it's great that you can do that with Photoshop, but with that comes the disadvantage of getting bad habits as well. And most users who learn to use Photoshop on their own will pick up these bad habits, and one of them would be not to use masking, because masking is not that obvious. It's not something that you must use to be able to work in Photoshop. Mm-hmm. It's a more sophisticated way of using Photoshop, and that will really take you to the next level and probably make you 5 times faster than others who won't use masking.
Yeah, that's helpful. I mean, I've started playing around with the PS Touch application on the iPad, and that has a basic masking capability, and that's where I've started to learn a little bit about layers and the power of masking. And it's got some quite good little tutorials on it. So if somebody wants a quick introduction to playing around with Photoshop, if they don't own the Photoshop application, that might be another way of them, beginning to get some idea of how it works. Although obviously the PS Touch app, which is very inexpensive, is nothing like as sophisticated or as complex as the Photoshop application itself.
Yes, exactly. But also I would like to highlight, even though I don't work for Adobe, I would like to highlight the fact that they have now a package deal for Photoshop, Lightroom, and a couple of other services which anyone can subscribe to, since they have the Creative Cloud, which is a membership-based online license for these applications. They now recently, I think 1 or 2 months ago, released a version which is only specifically for Photoshop and Lightroom, so mainly the photographer community and anyone who really just needs Photoshop. And it's very inexpensive. It's around $9 a month or something like that.
That's very inexpensive. Okay, so I'll find the link to that, and I'll make sure I put that link in the show notes.
That's great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
That's very helpful to point that out, because I know the Photoshop application is hundreds of dollars, isn't it, to buy it outright.
Yes,
and that's quite daunting if you're just starting up. Whereas, if you want to try it out for 2 or 3 months at $9 a month, well, that's quite affordable.
Yes, I think there's for the latest version, Creative Cloud, there's not even an option to buy it out.
Ah, okay.
You can only subscribe to it now.
Right.
But with that said, they changed the way they release new versions as well, so that you don't have to wait like a year and a half to get new features. You get them on the way. Whenever they come up with something new, they just get it as an update for everyone who's subscribing.
Yeah, very, very good. Can we move sideways slightly now in the conversation? Because I'd like to talk about your experience of creating courses, to try to share that experience with course creators rather than course takers. What sort of tips and tricks have you learned along the way that you can help people out with?
Yeah, I've been doing courses, recording courses, and doing live courses as well, online and offline. So I have a couple of things that probably would help everyone. First of all, I would say planning is very important, but to a point. I wouldn't write down everything about my presentation and even courses that I would record. Obviously, I would create an outline. That would be probably one of the first steps I would do for a new course. Of course, after finding the target audience and finding a topic that is very important or very, very look for. An outline is the first thing I would do. And after that, do the planning properly. Make sure before you actually start recording your courses that you know what you want to say, not just in a specific tutorial, but in the whole course together. So there should be like an underlying message in the whole course. So whoever watches these tutorials should know where they will get once they go through the whole course. So this underlying message I think is very important. The other thing is, I think the tone of voice is also important. I always get that feedback from my audience that they really like to listen to me because I'm just so easy to understand. So I prefer not to use very complicated terms and try to sound like I'm a scientist or I'm way beyond what they know. Mm-hmm. I prefer to speak to everyone as a friend, and I think that makes it much easier for everyone to understand what I'm saying. So I try to explain things as just as I would explain it to any of my friends. So I try to be very friendly and just easy to understand. And I think that really I get that feedback a lot, that it really helps people, and that's why they choose to listen to me. Also, I prefer not to spend or waste my viewers' time on anything unnecessary. I heard that from lots of people from in whoever I used to teach and whoever went online and started learning online. They always told me that they find video tutorials sometimes very annoying when it's just doesn't stick to the point that they want to learn about. And the instructor starts talking about their family and pets and stuff like that. So I think that's, again, another important thing. You shouldn't waste your audience's time. So really, really just minimize the amount of time you spend on each topic. Make sure you cover whatever you need, but don't waste time on anything unnecessary. Yeah. And maybe one more thing that I would mention, which applies to both recorded courses, both live sessions, that you should always make sure that the beginning and the end of your course is very effective. It's it works really well, because that's like how we work. Whoever attends a session or watches a course will mainly remember the beginning and the end. That's like the most that will really stay in the head. And if that was really good, it was very clearly explained and used good examples, then the whole course or the memory of the whole course will be very good. So beginning and the end is very important. And for that reason, I recommend to record the introduction at the very end. So never start recording the first video in the beginning. Record that after you recorded everything, because then you will have a really good understanding of the whole course, and you can really summarize what the course will be about.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, the way I like to do it is to record the main modules, then record the wrap-up, then record the intro, and finally record the promo.
Yes, that's a very good way to go.
And do it in that order. It's like writing a business plan. It's the same sort of thing. You write your executive summary once you've written the rest of the plan. Can you comment on how you market your courses? What's been working well for you on the marketing front?
Well, one of the ways I prefer to market is using social media. I use almost most of the time Facebook, Pinterest, Google Plus, and Twitter the most. So these are the ones that I use the most, and YouTube as well, actually. So on each of these social media sites, I have thousands of people following me. I'm not sure if they are the same, but there's probably overlap between these.
Sure.
But still, on Facebook, I have around more than 6,000 people on my fan page for my website, which is quite good. And if I advertise, I can use paid advertisement on Facebook. That will get to quite a lot of people, and probably that people or that audience is interested in design and whatever I'm talking about. So that works quite well, social media. And then obviously Google AdWords is a very useful way of advertising. I haven't spent much money on it yet, but as soon as I have my new courses up, I have already a plan how to advertise them using Google AdWords, and spend a little bit more money on that instead of just sticking to Facebook, because I think it's good to always try different ways.
Yeah. Do you find you get a return from paid advertising? Because I do most of my social media marketing, I do unpaid. I use Hootsuite, and I have a series of campaigns that I run from time to time. Have you found that particularly on Facebook, where you can have very, very targeted advertisements, has that been effective?
Yeah, I mean, I usually aim for the 20% investment, 80% profit, and that works with Facebook for me. So, I mean, I can make around 400% profit, which is very good.
It's very good. Yeah, absolutely. So let's move on. That's actually it's very helpful to get advice from somebody with as much experience as you have, and the more advice I can extract from people, then hopefully people listening to the podcast, if they want to make their own courses, they'll avoid making some of the mistakes we've all made in the past, and therefore it makes it easy for them. So thank you very much for your advice there. Can we turn now to the discount coupon code offer that I've kindly persuaded you to release for the online learning podcast community? What have you got to offer today?
My offer for you and the community is a 50% discount on my Essential Skills for Designers Masking course. Which is available through the link I've provided. Yeah,
so the course is normally $49, so that's a $25 cost. The coupon code you've created is all lowercase OLP hyphen, not underscore, masking, MASKING. So if you want to get that directly, go to Udemy, find the course, which is called Essential Skills for Designer -masking, and put in the promo code, and you'll get that discount. I will create a pretty link, which is jbdcolley.com, which will be /OLP masking, and I'll have a hyphen in there as well, so that the codes are identical. And if you would like to use that, that'll be an affiliate link, so then the online learning podcast will get some benefit from that. But as I always say, it's down to you how you want to. If you decide you want to buy the course, if you want to go directly, you're very free to do that, and Martin will get more money. If you do it through the affiliate link, he's going to have to share some of it with me. But either way, the idea is to get you value through the discount and also through the free courses. That's really, really generous, Martin. Thank you very much. I will put links to all your courses in the show notes. There is the free course, which I strongly recommend. I've actually taken some of it, really wanted to see what Martin's style was like and to learn a little bit more about design. And I found it very eye-opening, the number of areas I simply have no idea about. So I'm not particularly creative in the design sense, but I found it very interesting. I'm very keen on photography, so I found it very interesting that there's so much out there that I can go and learn about. And I shall definitely have to have an eye on some of your courses going into the future, particularly if I can get Photoshop at $9 a month, which makes it very doable. Martin, where can people find you if they'd like to know more about you?
Yeah, my website is called Yes, I'm a Designer, without spelling it as I am. It's just simply I and M, the two letters, like the abbreviation. Yes, I'm a designer.com. That's my website and my blog, which I am currently expanding, and I'm reworking the whole site. But at the moment, it's still available, everything on it. There's a lot of content, probably around, I would say, 30 hours of free content, video content available through my blog, which are all my seminars recorded, some of them which I deliver to places like Oxford University Press and places like this. So quite useful content you can find there. And you can find links to all my work online and all my social media sites. So that's probably the best place to look for me. And there's also a link to my portfolio. So if you are interested to see my freelance design and digital artwork, you can also find that on my portfolio.
Brilliant. And,
which is, by the way, that's as my name, martinperhiniak.com.
Very good. Okay, well, I'll put I can put that into the martinperhiniak.com. I'll put that in the show notes as well so people can find both links. Martin, thank you very much for your time today. It's been fascinating talking to you. I particularly enjoy conversations with people when I know so little about the subject. I always learn something. I wish you a lot of luck with your work on Udemy, and thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much. It was great fun.
My thanks to Martin for that. It's always amazing to me when I find myself talking to people with such incredibly deep expertise in their area, particularly when I know absolutely nothing about it. So I think it was really helpful. I hope you enjoy his courses. His free course particularly I found really interesting. So if you do nothing else, go and check that out. Let's now turn and take a look at this week's free course recommendation. Let's take a look at this week's free course of the week. In this week's free course, I want to keep the Adobe theme running, and I have picked out for you what looks like to be a very interesting course, but we've moved to Adobe Flash just to mix it up a little bit, and the course is called Adobe Flash CS 5.5 for Beginners. Learn how to use Flash CS 5.5 with Ultimate Flash CS5 tutorials to create interactive content. The course is presented by Professor Andy Anderson, who, amongst other things, has been listed in the top 40 designer trainers in the United States for 4 years running. The course, believe it or not, has 149 lectures and 10.5 hours of content. In it, you'll learn how to create standalone presentations and animated scenes from beginning to end, how to create web-ready videos using the Flash encoder and create usable playback controls, how to import graphics and artwork from Adobe Photoshop and Illustrator into an active Flash project, how to work with text, images, audio and video within Adobe Flash, and how to publish Flash projects to a variety of formats. It's a phenomenal piece of work, and I think, the fact that it's free is just completely eye-opening to me. So if you have any interest in this particular area and you want to get yourself up the Adobe Flash learning curve, this is the course to go and do it on. The course again is Adobe Flash CS 5.5 for Beginners by Andy Anderson, and you will find a link to it in the show notes. So that's it for this episode. Thank you very much for your time again today. I really appreciate you taking the time to download my podcast and to join me and hopefully learn something useful about online learning. Don't forget, I would love to give you a shout out if you leave me a 5-star rating and a comment. All you have to do is email me, john@jbdcolley.com. Tell me your name, tell me which country you're in, i.e. which iTunes store you've left the message on, so I can go and have a look at it and then read it back to people on a later edition of the podcast. So that's it for another episode of the Online Learning Podcast. I really appreciate you being with me. If you enjoyed the show, I would really appreciate it if you would go over to iTunes and leave me a rating, preferably a 5-star rating if you think it's worth it, and a comment. And then if you email me, john@jbdcolley.com, that's Juliet Bravo Delta Colley.com, I will send you a free coupon code to my Udemy course, An Introduction to Startups, which has got 40 minutes of video teaching you all about startups. So thank you very much for spending time with me today, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. This has been the Online Learning Podcast.